This doe-eyed blonde really wanted to be that Gone Girl movie, except for her, it went terribly wrong. You see, Sherri Papini had a fairly idyllic looking life. She had a home, a husband, two beautiful children. So nobody suspected anything when she dropped her kids off at daycare on November 2nd, 2016, and went home for a run. It wasn't until later that evening when her husband Keith comes home from work and he can't find Sherri. He realizes the kids have not been picked up from daycare, and he uses that Find My Phone app to find Sherri's phone, which he locates on the side of the road. He calls 911. The police later note that when they find Sherri's phone, her phone cords to her earbuds had been very neatly wrapped around her phone, and intertwined were strands of her long blonde hair. Her phone had also been found screen side up. It didn't look as if Sherri's phone had been lost in a struggle, more as if it had been placed on the ground. Also interesting was playing on repeat on her phone was her wedding song, the Michael Bublé Everything. For the next almost 3 weeks, the police conduct countless searches for Sherri, not a sign. Her family, her friends, the community come out and put up missing signs. Nothing. Her husband Keith tearfully pleaded on 2020, begging for his wife's safe return. But for some people, like myself, something seemed off with this story, and it didn't take a lot of Googling to find that a lot of people had things to say about Sherri. Her ex-boyfriends and ex-husbands said that Sherri had a history of lying, of making up false accusations. Sherri even had a bit of a sketchy past with her own family, some law enforcement involvement, some issues that seemed a bit above and beyond your normal family dysfunction. And then there were these alleged letters submitted by Sherri in her maiden name. To sum them up, they were racist in nature, and particularly towards the Hispanic women in her community. She tells stories of having to fight back. There's definitely a skinhead, white pride vibe throughout them. They're odd. Feel free to tap and read them if you would like. To note, Sherri firmly denies writing these letters, but Sherri is a liar, so you can believe whatever you want to believe. 22 days after Sherri went missing, a miracle happens on Thanksgiving morning. Sherri is found running down the road. She is chained and restrained. She is battered and bruised, and she is taken to a hospital where the police meet her there, and they want to know, what happened, Sherri? But Sherri claims she doesn't want to talk to the police directly. She says that she has reason to be distrusting towards law enforcement. So this way of communicating starts, where she will answer questions only through Keith, her husband. So the police would ask a question, and then Keith would repeat it back to Sherri, and then Sherri slowly but surely tells her story. She claims that she was abducted at gunpoint off the road that day by 2 Hispanic women. She claims that she was taken to a secondary location where there she endured the most brutal of treatment. She claims she was being prepared to be sold to a police officer. She was beaten. She was burned. She had her hair cut. She was starved. She was forced to urinate in a bucket of kitty litter. And then, worst of all, in her final stages of preparation to be sold, she was branded. And then, for some reason, these 2 Hispanic women just decided to drop her off on the side of the road. The most important thing the police did that day was they collected Sherri Papini's clothing that she was found in, and they tested it for DNA, and a male profile is found, but at that time there wasn't a match. But there will be a match, and when that match comes back, it's going to blow up Sherri Papini's whole story.